Hey there. So I figured I'd make a quick little video for you instead of trying to type it out because it's a lot easier just to be able to see and hear what's going on instead of trying to type it out. So right to cut to the chase, yeah, the only thing I was trying to do here was really just kind of kick that snare down a little bit just so you can kind of hear more similarly to what I was trying to portray here. So I got your original up on top, and I just duplicated it down here so I can work on it, and that way I can quickly A/B between the two without mangling anything up. And I also didn't want to go too far and change what you had going on. Really just wanted to kind of portray what kicking the snare down would sound like, and a little bit of automation too between the verse and chorus. Your ears weren't playing tricks on you. I did do a little bit there. So just to go over what we got going on, right from the get-go in the intro, that was just me having fun. All I did was kind of sum it all down to mono right here. And I just rolled off a lot of the top end. And I did that just to kind of give more of a mid-range focus for that intro. That way when the actual downbeat comes in, this gets bypassed. And it kind of gives a stronger effect. So I'll show you what I got going on there. And you can see right when the downbeat hits, that goes away. So that's only for an effect. But to get on to what the snare was doing. So I had to be a little careful here because I didn't want to try to mess with any other mix elements. But the fact that the snare was so high without a lot of compression going on, it seemed. It had really big peaks. I mean, you can see them here in the waveform already. So that actually gives a lot of leeway to try to duck that down with compression or clipping without affecting, the guitars and everything else. So the first thing I did was just put an SSL style compressor on there. Usually I like the Waves one, but this one has a key feature, the sidechain high pass, that I really wanted to use for this because I didn't want the bass or the kick to be knocking down anything. I just wanted to try to focus this on the snare. So we got like a 10 millisecond attack, the fastest release you can on an SSL. It's 100 milliseconds, 3-to-1. And, when I play it, you'll see I'm only taking maybe a dB, not a lot, just enough to kind of tame the peak of the snare, but also try to get it to glue into the rest of the mix a little bit more. So we'll just start it here. So you can see it's really only moving on the snare hits, and it's only taking a little bit out. And after that, I'm using Flatline, which is a clipper. And this is not what I would normally do, because usually throwing a clipper on a snare or over a master to try to grab the snare, a lot of times will make the snare more apparent and actually louder. Because as you shave off that waveform, the converter doesn't really know what to do, and it kind of overshoots. I did it this way, though, because this plugin's layout is really nice to visually see the snares. And I'll play a little bit, and you can see them. So all I'm doing here is really trying to shave off the snare hits that are just way higher than the rest of them. And I'm not pulling the threshold down far enough to hit anything else. Once again, I'm just trying to grab that snare a little bit. And after that was just me having a little bit of fun again. I ran it through like a Pultec style EQ just to give a little more shimmer up top. And also just to kind of boost the sub frequencies a little bit. I'm actually really glad that this mix is very mid-range focus, because that's where the mix lives. A lot of mixes, if they're really boosted and blown out on the low end and the high end, and the middle is whatever, you lose a lot, and then it just sounds hyped up and weird. So this I just did a little bit just to, I mean, it's subtle, but I'll A-B it for you. So yeah, what's more obvious to me, other than the top end, is actually what it's adding down low. So it's less than a dB of 30 hertz, which I'd never do 30 honestly, but it sounded pretty good here. So we'll roll with it. And then after that, it's actually just a little bit of dynamic EQ to knock out that bottom end of the snare. So I have this set in mid-side mode again because I didn't want anything to be taken out of the sides where the guitars were living. I didn't want that to be ducking at all, because that actually sounded awesome and fine. So I'm really just focusing again right up the center where that snare is. I kind of swept around and found it was just under 200 hertz. I didn't make it too narrow. It's actually a little wide, but yep, we'll play that. And yeah, the range is set to -5, but I think even the biggest hits might only be taking 2 or 3 dB out. It's not drastic. When you start stacking all these things up, they work together. And when you're doing it over an entire mix, the small moves are the way to go. Things can get really out of hand when you're, not on a per track level and you're doing it right there on the master. So, I'll show you what's going on here. And you can see it might be hitting -3, and it's not a whole lot. And that's really it. Other than, yes, I did have a little bit of automation, and all I did there was, since, I don't have the multi-tracks, I can't really put more energy into it. So one thing you can do is always take it away for other stuff. So let the intro just roll, full blast. And what I then did was both of the verses, I just ducked down, I think 0.8 of a dB, so almost 1 dB. And you'll see I also did this on the clip. I didn't do it down here on the actual automation lane. And what doing it on the clip gain did for me was change the level of this before it hits this compressor. I didn't want to do all this processing and then just sit here and essentially make it louder or softer. So by doing it this way, I'm effectively changing how much is getting hit by the compressor and the clipper. And, you can do this either way, but, for this particular instance, that was just to try to grab, I wanted to keep grabbing that snare, but I didn't want to get too crazy with anything. So this was just an example of kind of how you can do a really quick automation move right there on the master, just to give the mix a little more, ebb and flow instead of staying so static. So yeah, I hope that helps, and happy mixing.